Hey guys, what's up? Today I've got a seriously creepy story for you. It's based on that whole weird rules concept. This is new territory for me, so after you watch the video, please leave me your thoughts in the comments. These aren't your typical horror stories. They're more like mysteries, with that certain vibe that makes you pay attention to every detail. I don't want to spoil anything. Better to just listen and judge for yourself whether this is your thing or not. And before we start, you know the drill. Subscribe to the channel. With that said, get comfortable and let's begin. The first ring came at 6:18 p.m. I remember the time exactly because I glanced at my watch, hoping my shift was almost over. No such luck. I still had hours ahead of me. The office was dead silent, the kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of every little sound, every breath, every rustle of fabric, every faint creak of those old office chairs. The only constant noise was the low, monotonous hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, the occasional squeak of my chair when I shifted, and the soft clatter of my keyboard as I typed absent-mindedly. And then the phone rang. That sharp, piercing sound made me jump. Under the pale glow of my monitor, the caller ID lit up. Unknown. I sighed, rubbing my eyes, already bracing myself for some stupid prank. Probably some drunk, or worse, a phone jerk. Night shifts at Whisperline were infamous for that. People thought it was hilarious to mess with the graveyard crew, especially knowing we were stuck there until sunrise. I adjusted my headset, cleared my throat, and hit answer. "Thank you for calling Whisperline. How can I help you?" Silence, but not empty silence. There was something there, a presence on the line. I could hear someone breathing, slow, steady, controlled. Not random, but deliberate. I frowned. Hello? More breathing, not a word. I glanced at the screen. The call timer was still running. Someone was there, listening, saying nothing. "If you can hear me, I think you might have a connection issue," I said. Then, through the headset came a faint crackle. But it wasn't static, or words, or background noise. It was something else entirely. A sigh, deep, ragged, trembling, and then something wet. A horrible gurgling sound, like someone trying to breathe through shredded lungs. The kind of sound a person makes when they're drowning in their own blood. My stomach clenched instinctively, and then the line went dead. A chill ran down my spine, but I shook my head and forced a chuckle. "Nice try, buddy," I muttered under my breath, rubbing my shoulders to shake off the unease. Probably just some bored kid messing with the night shift. Those little punks did that sometimes, called just to freak people out. I had no clue I'd just broken the first rule. A few minutes later, I stretched and rubbed my eyes. The late night hours always messed with my head. Outside, the world was black and empty. Inside, under the artificial glow of the computer screens, time seemed to stand still. The office was eerily empty. Rows of vacant desks didn't help. Everyone else was either on vacation or working remotely, leaving me alone in this ghost town of humming monitors. Then the lights flickered. A sharp, buzzing stutter, then again. I blinked and looked up. The fluorescent tubes overhead trembled, casting weird, jagged shadows on the walls before settling back down. I snorted, shaking my head. Must have forgotten to change the bulbs. The flickering stopped. Silence returned. I sighed and turned back to my screen, trying to focus, but something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but the air felt heavier, denser, like the room itself had taken a breath and was holding it. Words felt hollow, even as I thought them. There was something unnatural about that flicker. It wasn't random, like a bad connection. It was controlled, deliberate, like someone was testing it. I brushed it off. Just exhaustion. My mind playing tricks after too many sleepless nights in an empty office. I didn't take it seriously, and looking back, I regret that. I should have paid attention then. Recognized the warning. Done something. I should have left right then and there, but I didn't. And now I'd seen something I was never supposed to see. After the light incident, I went back to my routine. At 1:30 a.m., I was sitting at my desk, nearly falling asleep from boredom. The screen glow made my eyes tired, my lids heavy. The monotony of the shift was wearing me down. I leaned back in my chair, hands behind my head, when I heard my name. A whisper, soft, right behind me. "Mark." My breath caught. Every hair on my body stood on end. The voice was so close it was like someone had leaned in right next to my ear. I whipped around so fast I almost tipped my chair over. Nothing. Just empty desks, silent computers, the faint glow of the exit sign flickering in the distance. I swallowed hard. My pulse pounded in my ears. It had to be my imagination, a trick of exhaustion. That was the only explanation. Maybe I dozed off for a second and my brain turned some random noise into something that sounded like a whisper. Or maybe it was the security guard pulling a prank. But that didn't make any sense. The voice had been way too close, right behind my neck. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. "Get it together, Mark." I tried to shake off the unease and turned back to my desk. And I heard it again. "Mark, why won't you look at me?" My stomach twisted painfully. This time it wasn't just some random whisper. It was familiar. It was my sister's voice. The blood froze in my veins. Impossible. My sister had been dead for 8 years. The air thickened, and an intense cold wrapped around me. But the worst part, I felt breath on my ear, cold, slow, deliberate. My entire body locked up. Every muscle seized with fear. I couldn't move. Something horrifying, without a doubt, was right there. But pure instinct took over. I shot out of my chair, nearly tripping over my own feet, and bolted across the office. I didn't stop until I reached the break room, slamming the door shut behind me. My chest heaved with panicked, ragged breaths. For a few seconds, I just stood there, back against the door, trying to convince myself I wasn't losing my mind. Then my eyes landed on something new, something that hadn't been there before. A piece of paper taped to the refrigerator. At the top, in big bold letters, "Rules." I ripped it off the fridge with trembling hands. The paper felt brittle under my fingers, like it had been there way longer than it should have. The ink was slightly smudged. The letters in some places were uneven, like they'd been written in a hurry. The edges were yellowed, curling inward, like the paper itself was trying to hide what was written on it. A heavy knot formed in my stomach before I even read the first line. Rule number 1, if you receive a silent call, don't speak first. Wait for them to hang up. An icy chill ran down my back. The paper crinkled further in my grip. I had spoken first. I forced my eyes down, scanning the next rule. Rule number 2, if the lights flicker, lower your head and count to 10. Don't look up until it stops. If the lights flicker after 2:50 a.m., follow rule number 8. I swallowed hard. I hadn't counted. I'd looked right at the lights. My breathing quickened, my fingers getting clammy as I kept reading. Rule number 3, if you hear someone whisper your name, don't respond, even if the voice sounds familiar. My vision blurred. I had responded twice. A bead of sweat rolled down my temple. My hands shook, struggling to hold the paper steady. I forced myself to keep reading. Maybe, just maybe, I could survive this night. Rule number 4. Every night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., place your headset on the desk and close your eyes for 1 full minute. Rule number 5. If you hear typing from an empty workstation, ignore it. Don't go check. Rule number 6. Never, under any circumstances, look at the security cameras between 3:33 and 3:35 a.m. Rule number 7. If you see someone standing at the far end of the office, don't react, don't interact. Rule number 8. If you see something or someone strange trying to approach you or sit next to you, don't react at all. My fingers gripped the paper so hard it crumpled completely. My body went numb. At the bottom of the page, there was something else. Bold, larger than the rest. Special warning. If you break the rules once, the situation will escalate. If you break the rules twice, you won't make it to your next shift. My head spun. 3. I'd broken 3 rules. I didn't have a right to a second mistake. With trembling fingers, I pulled out my phone. My hands were slick with sweat, but I managed to set 2 alarms. One for 2:13 a.m., the other for 3:33. I didn't know what would happen at those times, but I wasn't about to take any chances. Then I realized something stupid, maybe even irrational, but it still made my skin crawl. There were 8 rules, 8. That number had always been unlucky for me. I remember when I was 8, my dog ran away. I got 8 stitches after slipping on ice in high school. The last digits of my ex-girlfriend's number were all 8s. She cheated on me with my best friend, who, of course, had a birthday on August 8th. 8 had haunted me my whole life, and it had never brought anything good. Now it was back. 8 rules, 8 ways to die. I took a deep breath, trying to push away the paranoia. I had to stay rational. I had to finish this shift. If I let my mind spiral, I'd make even more mistakes, and I couldn't afford that. Suddenly, just on the other side of the break room door, I heard the unmistakable sound of a chair being dragged across the floor. The sound was slow, deliberate, like someone was moving it just to let me know they were there. My stomach dropped. My mouth went dry. Something was waiting, and it wasn't going to let me go. I forced myself to breathe. Think, Mark. Think. The break room only had one way out, back into the office. No back door, no window to squeeze through. I was trapped. I had to get out. But if I opened the door, what if it was right there? I pressed my ear against the wooden door. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my skull. Silence. No footsteps, no breathing, no scraping. Maybe it had left. Maybe it was waiting. I counted to 3, 2, 3. Then, before I could talk myself out of it, I grabbed the handle and yanked the door open. The office was empty, or so it seemed. I stepped out cautiously, heart slamming against my ribs, my hands clenched into fists. Something was wrong. A deep, primal instinct clawed at my chest, screaming at me before my brain could even figure out why. My skin prickled, my breath caught. I was being watched. The air grew thick, heavy, like I was suddenly moving through something invisible and dense. The space around me felt different. Not just cold, but disgustingly wrong, like it had been defiled by something unnatural. Then I saw it. At the far end of the room, where the dim ceiling lights barely reached, hidden in the shadows, something stood, tall, silent, watching. A figure too tall, too still. My stomach lurched, my mouth dried up, and my fingers dug into my palm with incredible force. Rule number 7. If you see someone standing at the far end of the office, don't react. Don't interact. I wanted to run. Every muscle tensed. Every instinct screamed at me to bolt for the exit, but I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I forced myself to stay still. Every nerve in my body vibrated with terror. The longer I looked, the heavier the air became, pressing against my skin. Like the whole room was shrinking, suffocating me. My lungs burned from holding my breath, but I didn't dare inhale. Then, after what felt like an eternity, it moved. One step forward. My knees nearly buckled. Another step, and another. It was coming toward me. I stared in horror, unable to look away. My entire body was frozen. Now I could see it more clearly. Its limbs were wrong, too long, too angular. It swayed slightly as it walked, like a puppet with tangled strings. I could feel my body screaming, "Run! Run for the exit! Anywhere! Get out! Do something! Don't just stand there staring at something that shouldn't exist!" My phone vibrated violently in my pocket. The sound cut through the thick silence. 2:13 a.m. The alarm. I had one task. Ignoring the thing approaching me completely, I decided to follow the rule. I didn't hesitate. My hands moved on their own, ripping off my headset and tossing it onto the desk. And I closed my eyes for 1 full minute. The moment my vision went dark, the office around me changed. I could feel it. The air shifted. The hum of the computers vanished. The world became unnaturally silent, like I'd stepped into a place where sound didn't matter. At exactly 2:14 a.m., I opened my eyes, and in that same instant, the lights flickered, a quick, sharp buzz. Then again, I squeezed my eyes shut and started counting. 1, 2, 3. The room plunged into absolute silence. 4, 5, 6. The air changed again. It wasn't just thick anymore. It was heavy, pressing down on me like something was inches from my face. I could feel its presence. 7, 8, 9. A breath touched my cheek. Hot, wet, wrong. I clenched my fists harder, nails digging into my palms until they drew blood. 10. I opened my eyes. The office was empty. The figure at the far end was gone. The heavy, suffocating air had vanished. Everything looked normal again, except my headset was gone, and on my computer screen, there was a new message. The words glowed brightly against the black background. You followed the rules, but that might not be enough. A cold horror settled in my gut. This wasn't over, not even close. I barely had time to process the strange message when I heard a sound. Fingers tapping on a keyboard, fast, frantic, like someone was typing in a rush, slamming the keys with desperate urgency. I froze. The sound wasn't coming from my desk. It was coming from somewhere else. I slowly turned my head, scanning the rows of workstations in front of me. Empty. But the tapping continued. My stomach clenched again. No. I knew what this was. I knew that rule. Rule number 5. If you hear typing from an empty workstation, ignore it. Don't go check. I forced myself to ignore it. Pretend I heard nothing. But the sound of the keys was so loud. Then, a crash. The keyboard slammed with fury. The clicks turned into chaotic pounding, like someone or something was beating the keys with its fists. The chair squeaked. Slowly, deliberately, it rolled back from the desk. The screen at that workstation was still on, the keyboard was still making noise, but no one was there. The keys were pressing themselves, letter by letter, M-A-R-K. My lungs burned. I'd stopped breathing. It knew my name. I didn't move. The keys kept pressing. Then the keyboard flew off the desk with a sickening crack, smashing into the monitor. Keys rained down on the floor like knocked-out teeth. I jerked my gaze away and kept looking to the side, kept staring at my own screen. The sounds dragged on so long that my body started shaking. I didn't blink. I didn't react. I didn't even flinch when the last key clattered against the linoleum. Then silence. I waited, counting in my head. 10 seconds, 20, still silent. My shoulders sagged as the tension in my muscles began to ease. I leaned back in my chair. Exhaustion washed over me. My head tipped back almost automatically, just to relieve the strain in my neck. But I swear something inside me, something deep and instinctual, told me not to look up. But I already had, and I still wasn't alone. Something was pressed against the ceiling. A body, a figure, its back flattened against the tiles, arms and legs splayed out like a dead spider, my chest constricted, its head snapped toward me. I couldn't even scream. A blinding flash seared my vision. I blinked, my breath caught, and when my eyes adjusted, it was gone. My entire body stayed frozen. My heart pounded so violently I thought it would burst. The room was normal again, empty, but then something wet landed on my shoulder. Thick, warm, sticky. I touched my shoulder with trembling fingers. My skin was red. My stomach flipped. It was blood. My throat closed around a rising scream. I swallowed it, biting the inside of my cheek hard. Somewhere deep down, I knew I'd made a mistake. I tried to steady my breathing. The office was silent, except for my own pulse pounding in my ears. My hands gripped the armrests of my chair, knuckles white. I needed to calm down. I needed to. The lights flickered again. Not a quick buzz, not a typical faulty bulb. A rhythm, like the office itself was breathing. My heart sank into my heels. I glanced at the time on my screen. 2:53 a.m. I frantically tried to remember what Rule 2 said. If the lights flicker after 2:50, follow Rule number 8. Again, that feeling washed over me. A presence, a weight pressing on my chest, heavy, crushing, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I felt it. Close. Too close. The air grew thick and suffocating again. My stomach twisted once more. Nausea rose in my throat. I forced myself to stare at the screen, my fingers digging into my thighs to keep them from shaking. Don't look. Don't react. I knew the rules. I knew that if I looked, I was dead. But then something moved. Not next to me, not in front of me. In the reflection of my monitor, a figure, long limbs moving in the darkness with an unnatural slowness, just beyond the glow of my screen. It was approaching. I felt my chair vibrate beneath me. The desk creaked slightly, like someone or something was pressing against it. The rules said not to react, not to look away, but it was getting closer, and then it knelt beside me. Close, too close. Close enough that I could hear its breathing, close enough to touch. A clicking sound, low and raspy, came from its throat. It didn't move, it just waited. Then I felt it, something cold and sharp, like the tip of a razor blade sliding along my jaw. I squeezed my hands under the desk, not moving, not reacting, not flinching. I forced my breathing to stay steady. My eyes were locked on the screen in front of me. Then the pressure vanished. I kept staring ahead. Seconds stretched into eternity, and gradually the weight faded. The air around me returned to normal, and eventually it left. I tried not to think about it, tried to shake it off, tried to focus. I fixed my eyes on the monitor, pretending I wasn't seconds away from bolting out of the building at full speed. Then my phone vibrated violently in my pocket. 3:33 a.m. My fingers clenched the fabric of my shirt. I knew what this meant. I wasn't supposed to look at the security cameras from 3:33 to 3:35. I wasn't going to. I kept my hands firmly on my knees, but then I felt it, an unnatural pull. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't fear. It was something else. Like invisible hands had grabbed my head, slowly turning it toward the monitors. I fought it, clenching my jaw, squeezing my eyes shut so hard they hurt. Don't look, don't look, don't look. I repeated it like a prayer, but then I felt a movement, not from the screens, but from the office. I could feel it. The space around me seemed to warp. The cubicles shifted. The hallway looked longer, darker. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something rise. Not a person, a figure, black, torn, like a puppet made of broken bones. My body went cold. It shouldn't be standing. It can't. Its limbs bent in wrong directions. Its head hung limply to one side. I squeezed my eyes shut tightly. I didn't care if I looked insane. I prayed. A minute passed, then another, or maybe an hour. I had no idea. When I finally opened my eyes, the office was normal again. Desks were in place, the hallway was the right length, but something was still there. I could hear it, a faint, shifting rustle not far away. Not in another office, under my desk. My breath caught, the scrape of dry fingers on tile, a scratching that paused, waiting. I barely had time to catch my breath when the phone rang again, sharp, piercing. The screen glowed in the dim light, unknown. I didn't answer. Now I knew better than to do that. But the voice came through anyway, low, scraping, like someone dragging a blade across stone. You broke the rules, Mark. My breath stopped. The lights flickered. I didn't want to look. I really didn't. But my head snapped upward, and this time there was no ceiling, just a void, black, infinite, hungry. The office was gone, just the void, and then I fell. I woke up in my car. The first thing I saw was the clock on the dashboard. 7 a.m. I stared at it. My mind was foggy, my body heavy, like I'd run a marathon, or fought, or died. I had absolutely no memory of leaving the office, no memory of getting in the car, but my uniform was soaked, like I'd been sweating, or worse. I swallowed, my throat was dry and sore, my hands trembled as I reached for the door. I needed air, I needed to see. Getting out, I nearly fell. My legs were weak, shaking. I turned toward the building. There was nothing there, just an empty lot. No doors, no windows, like it had never existed, like none of it had ever existed. My back broke out in chills. I frantically pulled out my phone. No call history, no work emails, nothing. Like I'd never worked there, like it had erased itself from my life. But then I saw it, sitting on my dashboard, my old headset. I stared at it, and horror and primal fear flooded through me. And next to the headset, a note, scrawled in jagged, uneven letters, "See you tonight." I don't know if anyone's ever experienced anything like this or if you'll even believe me, but I have to tell it. Since I was a kid, I've never really believed in the supernatural, except maybe during spooky story nights. But there's something that's haunted me for years. Ever since I was little, I've had prophetic dreams. They come, and then later, events play out exactly the same in real life. I always recognize it in the moment of déjà vu, when everything unfolds just like in the dream, and I can predict the next few seconds. But among all those visions, there was one that stood out. The first dream. At age 6, I dreamed that I was in a hospital with a group of people, not as patients. We were planning to break in at night, armed with pickaxes, to break something on an old stairwell. The dream was lucid, but I could barely control myself. When the others started hitting too loudly with their pickaxes, I whispered, "Quiet, or it'll hear us." At first, I didn't understand what I meant. Fighting my fear, I went up half a flight and saw it, a genderless creature, humanoid, about 130 centimeters tall, empty eye sockets with 2 red dots inside like glowing embers, but a bloodier shade. It moved on all 4s, but its limbs were twisted unnaturally, like an animal's. It crept up behind my companions and pounced on them with terrifying brutality. I woke up hysterical. In my room, my old rocking horse was swaying so violently it was like someone invisible was pushing it. And even I, a strong kid, couldn't have made it rock like that. The second dream. The second time I saw it, I dreamed that my friend Christina, I didn't know her yet in real life, was staying over at my place. We were lying on a mattress, and on the lower bunk of my bunk bed, my grandmother was dozing, telling us bedtime stories. When she started to fall asleep and went quiet, I felt it approaching. I ran to the bed, shaking my grandmother. "Keep going, or it'll come closer." At that moment, I saw myself from outside. The creature was circling behind me. I knew it wanted me to look it in the eyes. It fed on fear. I clenched my teeth, staring at the floor. Then it jumped on my back. I woke up because my dog, an Asian breed, jumped on the bed and shook me like he was trying to wake me up. The third dream. We moved into a studio apartment because of difficult circumstances. I was sleeping on a folding chair next to the sofa. Across from me was a closet. In the dream, the closet door slowly opened and the creature crawled out. It crawled toward me, and I couldn't tear my eyes away from its gaze. Suddenly, the image changed. I saw a clock showing 3:17, and it, the creature, was sitting there, eating my neck. The worst part was the awareness. I was watching it from outside, through my own severed head. I woke up because someone was shaking me, probably my mom. The clock showed 3:15. When I turned, instead of my mother's face, I saw the creature. I screamed and ducked under the blanket and almost immediately blacked out. A minute later, though it felt like 5, I was shaken awake again. This time it really was my mom, shocked by my reaction. I didn't tell her what I'd seen. After that, the creature stopped appearing in my dreams. But one day, talking to my mom, I remembered everything and told her. She went pale immediately. Turns out that thing had haunted her dreams too when she was a kid. And not just her, it's been following several generations of our family on my mother's side. Even if no one talks about it, it still comes in dreams. My mom performed some kind of ritual. Apparently this creature even has a name, but I don't remember it, luckily or unluckily. The last dream. After that, it appeared to me one final time. I dreamed I was in an elevator in a new building, though back then we only had old elevators, with 3 people, my friend, a stranger, and a guy. Suddenly, the elevator stopped, and through the gaps, I heard something, then saw it, and immediately understood. It was coming up toward me. My companions vanished. I was alone. Then, for the first time, I heard its voice, low, rumbling, barely imitating human speech. It spoke through the gap, staring at me with one eye. "First, all of them will die. Then I'll come back for you. Nothing can save you. You're next." Now I'm almost 20, and I'm still scared to sleep in the dark. Plus, a few things terrify me. In my grandmother's old house, they actually installed new elevators, just like the ones in my dream. My current boyfriend and my best friend are exactly those people from the last dream, and my dreams have never shown events past my 20th birthday. It's getting harder to be alone, even when I forget about it all. That primal fear washes over me, the one that's been inside us since the beginning of time. I feel like the final encounter is close. Only the stranger from the dream is left, and then it'll all end.